The Bells of St. John. I assumed you watched it.
I did watch it.
You did. That's good.
Yeah, so that's good. It's fine of you to assume that, because I did.
Yeah, well, you never know. One time one of us could just completely forget to watch it. I watched it a couple times.
Yeah, me too. And, maybe that would be a fun change. Actually, I think it would be horrible, but I guess we don't know until we try.
There's a podcast called The Memory Cheats, where a couple of guys who are, longtime Doctor Who fans, each week, without any preparation, they randomly select a Doctor Who story and talk about it, which is fine because they've seen them all in the past, but they don't always have perfect memories of everything that happened. So I was thinking it might be more fun if someone who had only a spotty knowledge of Classic Who and had never seen some stories would do a similar concept where... they just, like, for instance, I've never seen the Fourth Doctor story, The Sunmakers. Who knows what happens in that one?
Not I.
I would assume that some sun-making occurs. I don't know who they are or why they make a sun.
Well, why wouldn't you make a sun? I mean, if you can. I mean, why would you waste that talent?
Well, I feel like if I had the ability to make a sun, I would probably not do it right here and now, because that would be dangerous. I'd probably want to find a good place to do it, and for that I would need space travel.
That's true. But if you had a sun, you could probably use its energy to travel to space very easily. I'm assuming that you can just take the raw energy of a sun and convert it into, like, fuel.
Yeah, that's what the sun does. I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things. I really liked it.
You did?
I did. I really liked it a whole lot.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and I feel like I think it's my favorite episode so far in Series 7.
Yeah. I might agree with that. I don't know, it just really felt like... I mean, it was just so nice to have an episode that was not, like, laden with continuity, really. I mean, like, there was the thing with Clara. I mean, obviously she's already been in the show, and, the Doctor's wondering about why she's all mysterious and stuff, and things like that. But it just felt like it was like a fresh episode of Doctor Who, like when the Doctor meets Martha, that kind of a thing. Yeah,
I feel like there have been times in the past 2 years where it's been very heavily serialized. Probably the prime example of that would be The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon.
Yeah.
Where it's just the beginning of the series, but you're already, like, thrown into this mystery. And then there have been times where it's not at all serialized. Like, it sometimes felt like the episodes of the first half of this series didn't have anything to do with one another at all.
Right.
Like, it didn't even really seem like the characters were being taken on an arc. It just seemed like each writer was kind of doing their own thing. But this feels like it's definitely its own thing, but it has a meaningful connection to what happened before and hints at what's coming next.
Right.
So in that way, it feels like it kind of feels like the way Doctor Who used to feel, like with Smith and Jones, with Partners in Crime, the old companion introduction episodes where, like, you'd get the companion, you'd get a hint of things to come, and stuff like that. It just felt very much like a return to form, I might say.
Yeah, I agree. And it was once again, it was kind of present day invasion of Earth, or London rather, very much like in the Russell T Davies era, and we talked about that for the Power of Three, how that was refreshing. And so, it's still refreshing even here.
Well, the actual plot was not that different from the plot to The Idiot's Lantern.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In that it's, there's this new technology that, Wi-Fi isn't really new, but neither was television wasn't brand new back then either. It's like this technology that sort of, people are inviting it into their homes, and what is it bringing with it, and it's feeding off of them and taking their minds, and there's even a scene that involves like going very high vertically up to address the problem.
Yes.
But I'm not actually an incredibly huge fan of that episode, but I feel like this was almost a smarter take on it. Even if it did fall back on dumb TV hacking at times.
Yeah. Which I think I can forgive.
I feel like there's a whole lot of just people typing really fast with furrowed brows. And the more you can furrow your brow and the faster you can type, the better you are as a hacker.
Right, that's how you win.
But at the same time, there's also like this element where Clara came up with a really clever solution.
Yeah.
And the Doctor came up with a really clever solution too, to sort of, take what was there and turn it back on them. So I feel like there was also this aspect of, cleverly exploiting vulnerabilities, like human vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Like everyone's tendency to put their work environment on Facebook or whatever, or
right.
whatever social networks they said. Some of the social networks they said are not things. Are they? Habbo?
That might be a real thing, actually.
No, well, it's a real thing, but it's not like isn't it like a children's thing?
Yeah, I guess it is.
I don't know. Maybe I've never used it.
Yeah, no, I've never used it either. It could just be that the Doctor is out of touch with social, and he was just shouting names of things he's heard of.
That wasn't the Doctor who said that. That was the guy who was running the big room full
was it?
Furrowed brow people.
Oh, right. Well, maybe he's been out of it.
Yeah, presumably. And as you kind of see at the end of the episode, they've all been out of it in some sense, because they've all been brainwashed.
Yes. So that just kind of like reverted them back to just who they were before they met the Great Intelligence or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, before they sort of came under his sway. Like, and I really liked that. I thought the actress who played the boss, I thought she was very good throughout the episode, and like being haughty and dismissive of people, but also like menacing. And then at the end, I really liked how she portrayed the child thing for that one line. She did a good job with that.
Yeah, that was a very well delivered line.
Mm-hmm. Which is sometimes all it takes, just one line.
Really, it truly is. It was just like a lot of little things about this episode that really did kind of remind me of those kinds of Russell T Davies episodes where you'd have that sort of like it was almost like this company was almost like Torchwood at the end of series 2,
yeah,
and that kind of thing. And I kind of got that vibe, and I liked that. And yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I don't know. I just liked it.
Yeah, I also think it had one of the highest concentration of just like clever lines of a Doctor Who episode in recent memory. Like the whole thing about the mobile phone being a surprisingly accurate description. I don't know the future. I just work there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like really good lines. Nobody likes cattle more than Burger King.
Right. Yeah, no, it was a lot of really snappy, clever dialogue.
And I like the title too, The Bells of St. John.
Yeah, that was clever.
And then I like that. That was pretty. It doesn't mean anything. Like it's not really significant to the episode.
No, not really. But no, it was still cool. Although it seemed a little weird to me. Like, how did it was kind of strange. In that opening scene, it seemed a little. I mean, I don't mind it, but it seemed almost over dramatic because these monks are all talking to each other. Oh, the bells of St. John's are ringing, and it was weird just because they seemed to all know like that this was a thing. But I mean, as far as I know, that is not a thing. Like, I don't think the Doctor like warned them. Oh, hey, listen, the phone might ring. Not that phone would mean anything to them either.
Yeah, that doesn't really make much sense. It would only make sense if there were some precedent for the TARDIS phone ringing.
Right.
such that they could have previously come up with the term Bells of St. John.
Right.
Whereas it's kind of stressed here that that's impossible.
Right.
That never happens.
Right. But I don't know. I just kind of chalked that up to Stephen Moffat wanting it to seem really epic and significant.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those Moffatisms, like, you know how, like, River will, write "Hello, sweetie" as the oldest message in the universe, etched on those cliffs,
right.
From the Pandorica opens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of, a Moffat thing. Speaking of which, I wonder whether River might have been the person in the shop who gave Clara the number for that helpline.
Right.
Which turned out to be the doctor.
Yeah, I figured it almost had to be.
Could be Rose.
That's true. Yeah.
I kind of doubt it, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like River has a history of doing that. Slapping on a vortex manipulator and then doing something like leaving "Hello, sweetie," just in planned places. So I mean, it seems like that's the kind of thing she'd do. So it just makes sense to me that she'd be the one to do that. But I mean, yeah, I guess it could be anybody who is a female.
Yeah, it really could. Could be someone we haven't met yet. Mm-hmm. Could be, I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things that's almost pointless to speculate on.
Right.
Except for the fact that, I mean, come on, it's probably River.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I just kind of, when I was watching the episode, I kind of just assumed that was the case. And I mean, it could be that is a kind of, that we're supposed to assume that so that our expectations can later be subverted.
Yeah, that could be.
But I have no idea.
Could also be Amy.
It could be Amy.
Did you catch the Amy reference in this episode?
That she wrote the book?
That Amelia Williams, a.k.a. Amy Pond, wrote the book. And I'm wondering whether that's sort of like a foreshadowing that Amy's not really gone and that they're going to, pull a fast one and she's going to come back and take over and Jenna Louise Coleman was just a hoax.
That would be a really, really elaborate hoax.
Yeah, I don't really want that to be true.
No. I mean, I think that, I don't know, I really feel like the Pond's story is kind of told and it's done. And I want it to be complete. I mean, like, I guess they can come back, sure. But I don't want them to come back as, like, a permanent companion again.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them again someday, but I'm in no way am I itching to see them again. Especially because I'm really enjoying Clara from what we've seen of her so far, including this version.
Yeah,
I like all the versions we've seen of her so far, but this is another pretty good Clara.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because in Asylum of the Daleks and in The Snowman, she seemed in both cases that character seemed like almost excessively quirky. And she seemed a little bit more toned down here, and I kind of liked that. I mean, she was still quirky, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I feel like if it even makes sense to say that there is a real Clara and that the other ones are not real,
right.
We've been given absolutely no hints as to what's really going on with Clara. I mean,
right.
But if it turns out that there is one real Clara and all the others are copies, then I think this one is the normal Clara.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hints that there is anything about her that, she seems to have a past, and I don't know. It seems like she's her own person. I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, there's no.
Well, this one definitely has a dad, at least.
Right.
And the doctor has spoken to her dad.
Right. It seems like that she wouldn't be the same person who is also in Victorian London and also crashed on the Dalek asylum.
Yeah, like for instance, I feel like this version of Clara is kind of explaining those versions a little bit by bit, because, for instance, a question we might have asked before is, well, wait a second, why is this Victorian one called Clara, but the Dalek one is called Oswin?
Right.
And we now have a plausible explanation for where Oswin came from.
I guess I guess you can call that plausible.
Well, I mean,
insofar as anyone in 2013 says "for the win."
Well, I'm sure people still do.
I guess.
But yeah, I mean, it could also be the case that this is not the ultimate explanation of Oswin. It's just like another manifestation of it.
Right.
But also, it seems to be like, for instance, one of the big questions about Oswin that I had as well. She's a junior entertainment officer. So why does she have these computer hacking skills that she wouldn't necessarily need to have in that position? That doesn't make any sense to me. But in this episode, we begin to see, all right, well, this version of Clara has computer skills that were not her own and sort of were given to her unnaturally.
Right.
So that doesn't explain anything in any meaningful sense, but it sort of suggests some kind of causality.
Right.
Like this is the prior event to that in some sense.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. And just once again, I'm all for all this kind of strange mystery kind of stuff as long as it pays off in some meaningful way. And I really hope it doesn't just get dropped like other things that Stephen Moffat has thrown at us before.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it'd be kind of lame if they just dropped this completely.
Yeah, although...
And the doctor's like, well, I found Clara. I did what I was supposed to do.
Right. He does seem intent to find out who she is. But whether or not they will explain everything down to the computer hacking, whatever, or more rather, why certain skills carry over between, I guess you could say, incarnations. Actually, you can't really say incarnations. That's not the right word, but copies, I guess. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how it is explained, if it is explained.
Yeah. I feel like there has to be some kind of explanation, and going by past history, I'm not incredibly expectant that it's going to be a very clear and logical explanation.
Right.
But, I don't know, as long as it's there, and it's presented in some kind of, fun or interesting way, I'll be fine with it.
Yeah, there you go. So now, I guess it would be very difficult to say where this falls continuity-wise, or would this? Do you think this would happen prior to the Yetis?
Well, that's a little tough to say because there have so far been 4 appearances of the Great Intelligence in televised Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And this completely excludes any novels or anything. And then there are novels that imply that the Great Intelligence is actually H.P. Lovecraft's elder god, Yog-Sothoth.
Okay.
One of the novel writers, I don't remember who because I haven't actually read these novels. But like to explain that all of these like big amorphous, free-floating consciousnesses or celestial beings or whatever in Doctor Who, just like to say that each one of them was a Cthulhu thing, basically.
Okay.
But anyhow, the Great Intelligence first appears in The Abominable Snowmen, and then The Web of Fear. And The Abominable Snowmen is set in, both of those stories are set in the 20th century. The Snowmen, someone pointed out on Twitter, I don't remember who, that these episodes could have been titled The Abominable Snowmen and The Web of Fear.
Interesting.
Because this was about the web.
Right.
Allegedly. But, yeah, anyhow. But the Snowmen takes place in Victorian times, and Bells of St. John takes place in, the 21st century. Mm-hmm. So there is a clear order in which those stories take place from a calendar perspective, but we don't really know whether the Great Intelligence is a time-traveling thing.
Oh, right.
And I think in the Web of Fear, or no, not in the Web of Fear, in The Abominable Snowman, the first story featuring the Great Intelligence, it's implied that the Great Intelligence has been around for thousands of years. I might be misremembering that. Whereas if you, take his origin in The Snowman, where he's living in London or whatever, then he couldn't have been in Tibet for thousands of years unless there's some kind of time travel.
Yeah, so in The Web of Fear, at the end of that, is the Great Intelligence defeated, or is this just kind of one of those things where it's left ambiguous?
Well, he's Doctor Who defeated.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
In the sense that he is definitely gone forever, but not really. Actually, I don't remember. I don't really remember the exact degree of definiteness with which she was disposed of. I should probably watch those stories again. The thing is, like, apparently he's our new major villain, I guess. I mean, because this did seem to imply that... It didn't even really imply that. Maybe I'm just assuming that we're not done with him.
Well, no, it certainly seemed like that. He was sort of a big bad.
But nothing he said implied, well, I have more plans now that I'm going to use against the Doctor. He just sort of said, well, you're dead, lady, and then made her reset to factory settings, and then
right.
Yeah, but I mean, based on the way he was used in the end and, big reveal, one assumes that.
Right.
But the funny thing about that is that neither of the two stories in which he appeared for the Second Doctor exist in their entirety. People can't, like, say, I'd love to find out more about this great intelligence, and then go buy those stories on DVD. It's just not possible.
How about that?
Unless the BBC knows something that we don't, unless they're keeping something from us.
And, it's entirely possible.
It is. But anyhow, since the last time we recorded, which was a very long time ago,
it was.
A lot has happened in the world of Doctor Who,
and outside of the world of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean, since then we have had Obama's second term was not yet going on.
That's right.
We recorded pre-inauguration.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone was alive who isn't alive now.
Probably.
Who can't really think of a person who died in the past 2 months.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Someone did.
Someone, though. Yeah. Probably plenty of people.
Yeah. I would venture to say so. But yeah, there have been announcements, there have been proclamations, There have been ultimatums. There have been an executive producer has been fired from Doctor Who.
Oh,
or
that's
right.
not
necessarily true. I don't know that that's true. But an executive producer has left Doctor Who.
Right.
Under allegedly contentious circumstances.
I heard about that kind of outburst, sort of public fight, I guess. That I assume that's what you're talking about.
It was at some public event where the report in Private Eye says that Moffat was dragged away whilst bellowing at Caroline Skinner, "You are erased from Doctor Who!"
Ominous.
That sounds like a Dalek plot.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, in addition to that, David Tennant and Billie Piper are returning to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
In unspecified roles.
Yes. That's I mean, I think we can assume what the roles are, or I would hope we can assume.
Well, I mean, with as far as David Tennant is concerned, there's reason to wonder whether he might be playing the 10th Doctor pre-Journey's End, or whether he'd be playing the clone of the 10th Doctor, or the copy or whatever, Meta-Crisis 10th Doctor handy.
Right. You'd think it would be the Meta-Crisis Doctor because of Rose.
But it could just be set during Series 2.
That's true.
From their perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot to ask of audiences that they remember the specific details of how Journey's End wound up.
Right.
To think back to 2008 and remember the very convoluted plot that resulted in them getting locked in a universe together.
Right. That's true. Although, but if I should really rewatch Silence in the Library before I go and make wild comments like this. But what would the impact be for River being in this episode then? Had River ever seen the 10th Doctor before Silence in the Library?
It's not specified.
Is it not?
No, she immediately sees him and she knows that he is a version of the Doctor.
Right.
But she is startled eventually to realize that this is a version of the Doctor that has never met her before. Which implies one of two things. Either A, she has met the 10th Doctor after that.
Oh.
Or B, she assumes that the 10th Doctor is like the 12th or 13th or 85th Doctor or something.
Yeah, right. That's entirely... Yeah, okay. All right. So she couldn't, in fact, be in this episode. And in fact, perhaps that increases the probability that she's going to be in this episode. The 50th.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's always the notion that, like, there are large unchronicled periods of the 10th Doctor's life. Like, for instance, at the very end of Waters of Mars, he sees an ominous ood, and then gets all spooked. He's spooked by an ominous ood, and retreats into the TARDIS. And then when we see him at the very next time we see him, assuming that we're only counting like TV episodes, as opposed to books or comics or the animated Dreamland episode or whatever. But anyhow, the very next time we see him after that, he mentions that he has spent a long time avoiding, following up on that whole ood thing, and has been doing other stuff in the meantime. So it could be that there are adventures he has with River that we never know about.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And in fact, when the 11th Doctor meets River in the one with the angels, the Time of Angels,
right?
He says something like, "We keep meeting in the wrong order."
Oh,
which he says something along those lines, which would seem to imply that this is not his second meeting with River.
Right. Huh.
So I guess my big question is David Tennant and Billie Piper's casting announcement the only casting announcement, or are there others yet to come?
Yeah, because there was speculation that there were going to be classic Doctors, or that there could be classic Doctors in it.
Yeah. I've heard all kinds of speculation that they're going to do like CG William Hartnell. I mean, most of them are a whole lot older than they were.
Right.
All of them are at least a little bit older than they were when they played the Doctor. But you could probably still do Christopher Eccleston and Paul McGann at the very least.
Does Christopher Eccleston ever want to come back? Is that ever... Because he kind of was not happy.
There has been a lot of talk over the years. Apparently, he doesn't like talking about Doctor Who in interviews. He, what little he has said basically means he didn't get along with his bosses, basically. It wasn't like that he didn't like the show or wasn't satisfied with the role. It was just like he didn't get along with the way the workplace was being. What I've gathered is that he felt like low-ranking members of the production crew were being mistreated. Which may well be true. I don't know, but there's an entirely different production team in place now, so that could change. And also, somewhat more recently, he's given vague comments to the effect that he would be open to returning. Or at least that he felt like there was more that he could have done with the character if he had only been given the opportunity, perhaps without specifically saying that he wants to now come back, but he did say that he felt like there was more he could have done.
Okay. That would be interesting. That would be really interesting to see him again, actually.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that guy again.
Yeah.
Or any of them. Any of them can come back.
Very true. Very true.
Based on this episode, I still like Matt Smith.
I do too.
I just continue to find he just continues to be a very interesting physical presence. He's very good at moving his hands and his weird looking face, and twirling around and making weird gestures, and it always seems, I don't know, it's just always so much fun to watch. And he just, even after several years in the role, he hasn't gotten to a point where he seems like he's phoning it in or anything. Like he's just standing around saying lines. He's definitely throwing himself in fully, which I always appreciate.
It's amazing how I just completely accept him as the Doctor, and I think I always kind of have, but I mean, it's still, he just really kind of owns that role, and I do like that. And he still has this kind of, there are just moments where he's just really being truly ridiculous, and just has this kind of like wide-eyed excitement at everything that's going on, between, I don't know, and just little things with the Jammy Dodgers and inventing the quadricycle, just little bits like that. He just continues to really, I don't know, I love that.
Yeah, when it was announced that David Tennant was coming back, I mean, I was like, oh, that's neat. And I'm excited, but I wasn't like, oh, thank God. As though I don't miss him. I don't miss David Tennant really.
Right.
Because Matt Smith is so good. And I'm sure that there are people out there who disagree vehemently and miss him desperately and are very glad that he's coming back. But I am definitively not in that camp. I am pro Matt Smith all the way.
No, I agree. We keep saying this, but I would be happy to continue watching him for years and years.
And yet, who knows whether that's gonna happen? I mean, there have been rumors. There's always rumors, but
well, of course.
I mean, the latest rumors are specific about him regenerating in the anniversary special.
Right.
And there are also counter rumors that say he has officially signed on for Series 8.
It's kind of interesting that there are rumors about something that is supposedly official. Yeah, I've heard those as well. And I mean, I guess, I don't know, I feel like I would be upset if he regenerated for the 50th. And I mean, like, I see how that would be, like, a really good time for it to happen, but I kind of hope not. And I mean, like, I guess if the 50th is when, like, the Fields of Trenzalore and Fall of the 11th, if those things are happening, then you'd think, like, well, the Fall of the 11th, that sounds like a regeneration. Although it could very well be intentional that we were meant to think that, and then it would not be.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if Matt wanted to stay, and if the people weren't against it, then, they could write around that.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like, for instance, I know that there was a chance that, David Tennant wasn't going to leave after the specials, and Moffat was already writing the scripts for Series 5 with a new Doctor in mind, but uncertain of whether he would need a new Doctor, whether he might just be able to carry on with David Tennant. I feel like in that case, it was definitely just down to what the actor wanted, and I feel like it's probably still that way, because I don't think there's any massive BBC campaign to destroy Matt Smith.
Right.
He keeps saying in interviews the phrase, "I'm taking it 1 year at a time," which is a sane way for a human being to live their life.
Yeah,
but very nerve-wracking for the fans, who are either desperate to see him stay, or I'm sure some people are desperate to see him leave.
Yeah, probably.
But either way, it's definitely at the point in his tenure as the Doctor where, I mean, this is his 4th year,
right,
even though he's only done 3 full series, and we are talking about his 5th year.
Right.
Which is the point at which it's reasonable to expect that he might want to go do something else. Like, he is going to be in a film directed by Ryan Gosling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then after he's done filming that, he's going to come back and do the 2013 Christmas special, allegedly. Who knows? Maybe that's a lie, and maybe he's just going to go off and do a film by Ryan Gosling and then just do another film by Ryan Gosling and just keep being in Ryan Gosling movies forever.
Yeah, there you go. It's a real toss-up for that.
But yeah, I certainly don't expect him to do more than 2 more years. Like, he might. I think he's probably going to come back next year, and I would guess that will be his last year.
Yeah. Well,
this is pure speculation.
Well, right.
Out of my butt.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's weird to think about. Like, Tom Baker was the Doctor for what, 7 years?
Yeah.
And, so it's weird to think that that's the longest that anyone has ever been the Doctor. So it would be very strange for any other Doctor to break that record or go even just as long. It's in my mind, it's just weird to think that Matt Smith's kind of coming up on the average length of time, if he hasn't already. I mean,
Well, the thing is, I mean, he specifically said, I don't think I could possibly do it as long as Tom Baker did it. 7 years, I mean, that takes a lot out of you. Right. It's because it's a very taxing, thing to do, because, I mean, there's the job itself and with the actual production schedule, and then there's, like, the constant promotion. Right. And I feel like there's even more promotion work being done on the part of the actors now than there was when David Tennant was the Doctor.
That's true.
Because there's much more, the onus is much more on them to travel the world to promote
right.
Doctor Who than it was for David Tennant and his companions. But so he's saying, I absolutely won't do 7, but we're coming up on 5. So
right. I mean, it doesn't even really feel like it's been that long, but I mean, obviously it has.
Well, Stephen Moffat keeps saying Matt Smith will be the Doctor forever. So that is my preferred theory.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's weird because it seems like Doctor Who has gained a lot more of a fandom in the US since Matt Smith has been the Doctor.
Yeah, I think that's largely down to BBC America handling the show a lot better than Sci-Fi ever did.
Yeah.
They advertise it. So,
well, yeah, I'm sure that does help.
Like, Doctor Who has been on the cover of Entertainment Weekly twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, including, I think, the current issue. Or perhaps the most current but one.
Yeah, so, I mean, it seems like probably for a lot of people, Matt Smith is their Doctor. More so than, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing to even say, but it would be interesting to see how new fans would react to Matt Smith regenerating.
Well, I think at the same time as it's definitely true that the fandom has grown in the U.S. since Matt Smith became the Doctor, but I think a large part of that fan growth comes from Netflix as well, with people who started watching with Christopher Eccleston or even just started watching with David Tennant.
Right.
Because, they have friends who say, nah, don't bother with Eccleston, Tennant's the best. Because that's a reasonably popular attitude, that people just like David Tennant a lot and say, don't even bother with that other guy. With the farting aliens and the burping trash bins and stuff like that. I feel like even the people who have become Doctor Who fans from 2010 on, a lot of those just binge watched David Tennant and then were sad to see him go.
Right.
And so they've already kind of been through that.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. I don't know. I still think it's weird to think about Matt Smith leaving.
My mom tells me that some of her students are big into Doctor Who. She has 4th grade students who are very big into David Tennant.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that can work.
Yeah, I mean, internet.
Yeah.
As long as they don't click on the weird symbols, they can watch Doctor Who on Netflix.
Yes, that's definitely true. Why would the Wi-Fi networks be named those weird symbols in the first place? You'd think that they would want them to be a little bit more friendlier looking, so people would actually click on them.
Like free public Wi-Fi or something like that. Like,
my God, that would be terrifying.
Yeah.
I see those all the time.
That's so weird. Yeah, but I don't know. I also kind of question the logic of that guy at the beginning who seems to know all of this stuff.
Right.
For no readily apparent reason.
Right.
Who does he think he's talking to when he's making this warning? And
yeah, like it looked to me like a vlog kind of thing, but that doesn't seem to be how that works. I guess he was talking to us. I guess that's what we were meant to assume.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of the lapses in plot logic that I'm fine with just overlooking that. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I also, speaking of plot logic, I guess, if we want to wade into that pool, I don't really get why the Doctor, other than to possibly just show off, I don't really get why the Doctor decided to just hop into morning, like why he decided to skip over the night and go straight to morning. Well, I mean, the reason he says is because he wants to tire them out.
Right.
Which, I mean, I guess that's kind of a good idea, but in that case, why doesn't he always do that?
Right.
Maybe from now on he will.
Maybe he's just going to beat all of his opponents by just making them really tired.
But the thing is, like, during the time they missed, people were dying.
That's true.
Because, I mean, I assume that they didn't completely cease all other, upload operations to look for them.
Right.
I assume they were still running and still uploading people just as they had been before, perhaps at like a lower rate because they were devoting some of their resources to trying to find them. But yeah, people were dying because he did that.
Yeah, that's kind of not cool. He also, at the end of the episode, tricks them into downloading Clara and everyone else, thereby killing some people, like, permanently.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, those were people, in a sense.
Well, I feel like it's kind of the same thing he did in Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel, where he just kind of decided on those people's behalf that this existence is not worth having. So let's just, like, in that case, he, let's just send a signal out to them that's just going to make them all want to commit suicide.
Sure.
That was his Cyberman solution. So I feel like this is, once again, he makes that decision on behalf of those people, when that's probably not. I mean, he could just, go back to the library and have them live in the computer with, River and everyone. Right.
Yeah, or, maybe take the time to, I don't know, make some kind of, like, Sims 3 house for them to live in.
Well, yeah, he could get a copy of Sims 3.
I'm assuming that can be done.
I'm sure it can.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems weird to me. Probably could have been a better solution for that, but I mean, I don't know. They had like the first like post-singularity humans, and he just kind of wasted it.
Yeah, he just basically flushed them all down the toilet just to save Clara and a handful of other lucky people who were still within that window.
Right. And that's a little bit sad.
He also seemed pretty concerned with finding out who their client was, but didn't stick around to actually find out who their client was.
He was probably busy. I don't know. Well, he was never actually there.
Well, that's true. He wasn't, but he was trying to figure that out, but then decided he didn't care anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I'm sure he'll get around to that eventually, just like he will eventually get around to finding out who pulled the TARDIS and blew it up.
Yeah.
In the Big Bang.
I mean, maybe he just figures it doesn't matter all that much. Like, I mean, whoever they were, they can't do that anymore. Can't do that thing.
Yeah.
Doctor Who will be on again next week.
It will.
With an episode called The Rings of Something. Akatan? Is that? I don't know. I feel like it was pronounced in the trailer, but I forget how.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just vent a little bit now.
Oh, okay.
I watched it on BBC America because I was not able to watch it any sooner than it would have aired in the US, so I just let my DVR record it. And BBC America did not play the Next Time trailer.
They did not play any trailer?
They did not play any trailer. They went directly from Doctor Who to their stupid Orphan Black thing or whatever. I don't know. And they didn't play it any Next Time trailer. Wow. I have no idea. What's happening.
So you haven't seen it? You didn't search it out?
No, I'm planning on searching it out, but I have not done so yet. No, well, I have no idea.
I don't really know what to think based on the Next Time trailer, so I don't really have much to say about it. So that's it's fine that you haven't seen it.
Well, okay then.
I wasn't really gonna say anything about it. I could watch it again right now.
It's tempting.
It's by a new to Who writer, Neil Cross, who has not written for Doctor Who previously.
Huh.
So, but yeah, it appears to be set. From what I can tell, it looks like it's set on an alien world or something like an alien world and features humanoid aliens. Or maybe I'm misinterpreting what I'm seeing. Can I even trust my eyes? I don't know. But yeah, did you happen to see either of the two prequels for The Bells of St. John?
I guess I saw one of them because I did see one. I didn't know there was multiple. There were multiple.
Well, there was the one that was just called The Bells of St. John, a prequel, which features the Doctor on a swing set.
I saw that one.
Okay. Well, what'd you think of it?
It was so obvious to me that was Clara that I was expecting it to not be. I figured that it had to be some kind of subversion of, once again, of my expectations, and then I guess my expectations were subverted in that I thought they were going to be subverted and then they weren't subverted.
Yeah, I was expecting there to be something like she wasn't Clara, she was like Clara's daughter, or she like walked away and went down an elevator into a facility that was full of Claras, or something out of the ordinary that would really knock the socks off, but that didn't happen.
No, it didn't. But yeah, no. So that was interesting. I liked it and it kind of got me excited, but it wasn't too surprising.
Yeah, but there was also an iTunes exclusive thing. I don't know if it's still iTunes exclusive, but it was at the time I watched it. Called Demon's Run 2 Days Later.
Ooh,
which answers some questions that you might have after watching The Snowmen.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what kind of questions?
Questions about Vastra and Jenny and Strax.
Including Strax's miraculous revival.
Yeah, would you like me to tell you what happened, or are you going to watch it for yourself?
You know what, just go ahead and tell me.
He didn't really die, he was just injured. That's what.
Oh. Well, I guess that does it.
Yeah. Well, so the doctor said that he died, but someone brought him back.
Right.
So that's kind of overstating it a bit. He was injured. He thought he was mortally injured, but he was actually non-fatally injured, and
so he just kind of walked it off.
He walked it off basically.
Well, all right.
And basically it just it explains that, and it explains how it is that Vastra and Jenny convince him to come with them to London, and how their partnership is formed. It's a couple minutes, and it's good. I like that. Because this is the third minisode they have done featuring just those characters. So Or not featuring just those characters, because there was one that featured them and the Doctor prior to the Snowmen. But
Right.
there was also one that featured just them prior to the Snowmen.
Yeah, no, it's that's cool. I don't know.
And we are going to see them again this season, I think.
Oh, right.
Based on the trailer after the Snowmen.
Right. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I like those characters.
Me too.
But yeah, no, that's almost disappointing, because I thought that was going to be somehow significant, that someone was able to bring some Sontaran back to life.
Well, you said in the previous episode that you didn't care at all.
No, I
said
know,
that in our...
but I was lying.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I figured you were. Yeah,
No.
I was fine with it. I was like, yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter all that much. He's back. That's fine.
No, well, no. So my complaint wasn't. No, my issue wasn't that. I don't mind. I would not have minded if they had just never brought it up again. But the fact that it was basically misleading, that he didn't actually die at all, that is what bothers me. That's the tiny little detail that bothers me, is that the information we were given by the Doctor was not the truth, which I guess I should expect.
The Doctor lies.
Yeah.
Why he would lie about that to a stranger is completely beyond me. But
maybe the Doctor just has gotten into this habit where he's just not going to tell the truth anymore, and he's not even going to make an effort to try and distinguish between the times where he should lie and should not lie.
Yeah, he's just going to express things in the most cryptic way possible.
Well, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe there's a reason he's doing nothing but lying.
Could be.
Maybe that's got to do with the question. Like, because maybe if he trains himself to always lie when the question is asked, he'll just lie and it'll be fine.
Well, I feel like there was a line that said, like, the fields of Trenzalore at the fall of 11, where none can speak falsely or fail to answer. Or it was something like that. So I feel like he's bound to tell the truth in that circumstance. Speaking of which, how did you feel about the question in this episode?
What, that they just kept repeating Doctor Who? Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I mean, some people are getting annoyed with it. I thought it was funny when they did it this time, and I feel like this is the most open acknowledgement yet of, like, the fact that the Doctor is deliberately trying to make it a thing.
Right. I kind of liked that they seemed like they were playing it for laughs. They weren't doing it to be, I don't know. Yeah, I thought it was done more to be humorous than anything, which is, I'm fine with.
What episode are you looking forward to most for this season?
Actually, I don't know, because I really like the idea of the Cold War one.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it other than it features an Ice Warrior on a submarine. Mm-hmm. Which is fine enough. Have you ever seen the Ice Warriors in any Doctor Who story?
I have not. No, I have not.
I actually don't think they're that great.
Okay.
I feel like they're just the most generic monster. They come from Mars.
All right.
Like Ice a lot.
Okay.
And speak in a whisper.
Well, that's kind of,
But maybe they'll change my mind. Maybe this upcoming episode will completely rock my world.
Hey,
with regard to the Ice Warriors.
You never know. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, there's that one. I like the idea of the episode that's taking place in the TARDIS, that's Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am probably most looking forward to the Neil Gaiman Cybermen episode.
That's true. That's true. There's that one, too.
Which was called The Last Cybermen, but is now called Nightmare in Silver.
Ah.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he can do something really creepy with the Cybermen.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah, and I trust him. I trust him to do something creepy with Cybermen.
Also, there's an episode called Hide.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but I tend to like episodes with short titles. So,
well,
Also, the movie poster image that they released for it looks pretty cool. So,
oh, really?
Based simply on that and nothing alone, the fact that the title is short and the promotional image is cool, I'm looking forward to that one.
There you go. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot to be excited about for this latter half of Series 7.
For the longest continuous run of Doctor Who episodes since 2010.
Yeah, this season's been kind of weird in that regard. It's been broken up. There was a companion change halfway through. It's a lot of strangeness with this season.
Yep. And I wonder if there will ever again be 13 episodes a year, but who knows?
Right, starting in the spring and going every week. Well, I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. I don't know. I've kind of grown accustomed to not knowing when Doctor Who's coming back.
Yeah, but who knows what the future brings?
Indeed.
Can't tell the future. I just work there.
Exactly. This is actually, I think, the first time I've used Windows 8 to record a podcast, and I had Audacity kind of just set up already, but I think everything is the way it ought to be. So here's to hoping.
I sure hope that everything is the way it ought to be.
Not
just with the recording setup, but as a general proposition.
Right. The universe as a whole.
Yeah, it would be quite distressing if something turned out to be just very badly out of whack.
Right.